this is our motto. Whatever you're feeling is the right feeling, and it applies to everything.
Mm-hmm.
If you get happy news that you thought you'd be excited about, and then you're kind of bummed for whatever reason, that's okay. That's the right feeling. What we feel doesn't define us, right? It's just something that's moving through us, and we can allow that. So, listeners, whatever you're feeling is the right feeling.
Welcome to the Medical Trauma Support Podcast, the show where we shine a light on the hidden impacts of medical trauma, explore tools for healing, and empower you to take control of your health journey. I'm Sarah, your host, a passionate advocate for trauma-informed care, somatic healing, and compassionate conversations. I'll bring you expert insights, healing strategies, and personal stories of resilience to help you feel seen, heard, and supported on your path to recovery. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Medical Trauma Support Podcast. Today, I have Seantae Jackson with me. Hi, Seantae.
So glad to be here.
Good. And she is the co-founder and executive director of the Sandal Blue Foundation and also an inspirational speaker. And I wanted to, Seantae, offer some space for you to share a little bit more about yourself, because I know that was a very brief little intro.
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much. You know, it's funny how in our world, we often start with introducing ourselves by what we do for a living and perhaps even define success by that. But in all reality, I'm just a normal girl living life day by day, loving so many things about it and then pushing through the challenging things. And that really is who I am in a nutshell. To give a little bit more about what I view success as is that I get to live with my favorite people. I have a husband. We've been married for 20 years and we have 5 kids, which means we're really busy. The kind of fun, unique thing is that we have 2 sets of twins. So we had a lot of kids really quickly. We had 5 kids under 6 years old. At this point in time, we have twin boys that are 18 that have flown the nest, and my mama heart's still learning how to cope with that. I love them and they're doing amazing.
Yeah.
And we have a 15-year-old boy who's getting ready to get his driver's license and go to his first high school dance and all of those fun things. And then we have boy-girl twins that are 12, almost 13. So we're getting ready to have 5 teenagers. The slang is real at my house. 6, 7 is said all the time.
Same. One of my kids is really into that. And she's like telling me how to say 6, 7.
Yes.
And yeah, you've got to do the hands. And I'm like, all right.
We just embrace it, because if we fought it, we would be fighting all the time.
I mean, it's fun. It's like part of being a kid. And also I think about how when we were that age, we thought we were the first people to do cool things and like use link. And it's so funny to see it.
Or wear certain clothes that I'm like, you guys are literally wearing what I wore when I was your age. Like, This is not new.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then outside of that, we love to spend time outside. We love to be together. I'm really grateful and lucky that I have friends and family and community to help support me, and that I get to in turn support and love on.
That's amazing. I was wondering if you want to tell the audience a little bit about what the Sandal Blue Foundation does.
So my husband and I co-founded a nonprofit called Sandal Blue Foundation, and I'll tell you why it's called that in a little bit, because I think we'll get to it anyway. What we do is help people that have survived catastrophic car accidents. So we hear these stories all the time, right? All the time. We're hearing on the news, we drive by them, we see it all the time that there's been this really bad car crash. Mm-hmm. And, the news report's going to say these people lived, these people died, these people got life flighted. And that's kind of the end. And we'll share a little bit about why we started it, but that's not the end for those people. And so we created our foundation to help people that need some support and community. Our big drive and push right now is resources and offering connections so that those people know that they're not alone, especially once they're discharged from the hospital, so that they know that there are more people out there that are willing to help them and be a part of their journey and to help them find purpose. We're really solution focused on helping people create a new normal and a new life for themselves. And it's really a wonderful, wonderful part of what my life gets to include.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Because we've talked before, and the people that are listening to this podcast who've listened to other ones know that I just think community is just a crucial part to being a human, especially when we've experienced something really hard, like a catastrophic car accident, medical trauma, which I know that's part of the picture for a lot of people who've been in serious car accidents is the medical piece of it.
Yeah.
And before we get into that, though, I would love it if you would share your story of what brought you to this point and what was like the reason behind y'all starting the Sandal Blue Foundation.
Yeah, I would love to. And before I do, I always just want to acknowledge and hold space for people that are listening that this is my traumatic event. And so when I'm sharing it, if you're like, this isn't my jam to listen to your trauma, just fast forward this part. Just skip over it. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but I do want everybody to understand where I'm coming from, and then maybe they can relate as well.
Yeah.
But we definitely want to hold space that it is hard to hear about other people's traumas for sure. So it's 4 years now. 4 years ago, my husband and I were rewarding our oldest twins with a backpacking trip. And most people think that sounds like torture, not a reward. But for us, we really love to go backpacking, and they were really excited. And we were traveling from Utah to Wyoming to go to a beautiful mountain range called the Wind Rivers. And while we were traveling, we were on a 2-lane road, and it was midday, beautiful day, nothing. It's just a 2-lane road with sagebrush on the sides, very little traffic. And there was a semi driving the other way like normal. And then all of a sudden, a car came out to pass that semi. And for whatever reason, they just continued to speed up. And all of us knew, and the semi truck driver knew, that there was not enough space and time for them to pass.
Mm-hmm.
So my husband did everything he could to avoid what was coming. The semi truck also tried to get out of the way as much as possible to give that car some space. But unfortunately, we still hit head on at very fast speeds. We had been going about 70, 75. Then my husband slammed on the brake. They were going, who knows how fast at that point, because they were trying to split the gap. So they were really speeding up. When we hit, our vehicle stopped like it was hitting a brick wall. They say at about 160 miles an hour because of the force between the vehicles. Their vehicle didn't take as much of that type of force, although of course it was still a lot. We all were unconscious and didn't know what had happened. When I woke up, I quickly was trying to figure out where I was and what was going on. So I was kind of glancing around. And this is the part I'm not going to share a lot about in this setting, but I very quickly realized that my family was not okay.
Mm-hmm.
Son, whose name is Owen, he was definitely not okay. And that was very apparent very quickly.
Yeah.
His twin Cameron was in shock, but was able to communicate, and he seemed a little bit better. And my husband was unconscious and not moving. Between all of that, it just turned into what needs to happen from here. And it's amazing what adrenaline can do and the ways that it can help you in that moment. We learned afterwards what we need to do with that. But in that moment, I'm so grateful that I was able to function in the ways that I did. I was able to call 911 and get help. There were a lot of Good Samaritans that had stopped to help us. And for some reason, I was able to direct them. I still don't know how. I don't remember it at all.
Yeah.
Our vehicle started on fire twice, and my husband was trapped. So the way that the cars hit, the engine had trapped him inside. So he was just under the engine, which did start on fire. And we waited about 45 minutes for help to arrive because we were near very tiny towns. The town that responded to us just primarily had volunteer firefighters and EMS, and thank goodness for them. And they did save us. My son flatlined in the ambulance 3 times. My husband was able to get cut out of the vehicle and life flighted straight from the road. I was also life flighted. And so there began our journey of something we didn't expect, right? And that's a lot of times why trauma is so hard, is because we didn't expect it in the first place. And that's why it affects us so drastically, is we're like, oh, I was supposed to be on vacation.
Right.
And our younger three kids were at their aunt's house, their cousin's house, while we were on our trip. They ended up living there for the summer because we were in the hospital. So, as far as actually starting Sandal Blue, this really magical thing happened. We were all in our own hospital rooms, and it was maybe only about 2 days out. I hadn't seen my husband yet or anything, and I just had this moment of, we need to help people. I don't know what it is, but we need to help people. Like, this is hard. And if anybody else has gone through this or will go through this, we want to help them. I want to help them.
Yeah.
And looking back at timelines, it was pretty much the same moment that my husband had the same feeling. He was like, we've got to help people. Like, we've got to help people that have gone through this. This is something we've got to help. At that time, my husband, all but his left arm, his other arm, and both of his legs were all wrapped up because of all of his broken bones. He couldn't move at all. And he's having this thought of, how are we going to help people? We need to help people. And he looked down, and all he could see was that medical bracelet that identifies you. He looks down at it, and it doesn't say his name. His name's Trevor Jackson, and he looks, and it doesn't say Trevor Jackson. It says trauma, Sandal Blue.
Mm-hmm.
And we've since learned that you get trauma names when they need to administer medication or blood or anything, like they did for him right on the road, and enter it into the system and keep track of it. And it's not the place and time to be like, what's your name and what's your insurance?
Right.
And so they just have it in the system. It just randomly picks a word. It's now up to 2 words. And the words that it picked for him were Sandal Blue. And he's laying in that hospital bed, and he just has this overwhelming feeling of, whatever we do to help people, it's going to be called Sandal Blue. And it was months later that we're driving to a doctor's appointment, and I just mentioned, I've never told you, but I had this thought that we should do something to help people. And he looks at me and he's like, I had the same thought. And, I pull out a notebook, and we just both start brainstorming, what could this look like and what could this be? And that's where it was born. And I think the beauty of that moment is that we weren't looking to change the world. We weren't looking to make this perfectly poised, presentable thing. We were just looking to help somebody else, and we were just looking to find ways to connect with people. And the really amazing thing that's happened is that we have found so much peace and hope, and through connecting with people that supposedly we're there to help, but they always help us more in return.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank
Thank you for sharing that. It is hard to hear, right? It's really hard to hear something like that. And as a mother, I'm feeling it in my body.
Yes.
Just the tiniest piece, right, of what you experienced. And so I want to acknowledge that for the audience, that if you're feeling it in your body, that's okay, right? I think that's really normal. And I would love for us to do just a little straw breath together. And so if you are watching, listening, straw breath is where you breathe in your nose for a count of 4, and you'll breathe out of your mouth for a count of 6 to 8. You just want it to be longer than 4, with your lips pursed as though you're drinking from a straw. So I'll show what that looks like to people watching this podcast. It looks like this. Let's do a couple together. So what we're doing is we're like acknowledging, right? That's really hard to hear that you went through that, right? It's so hard to hear these things that other humans go through. And so we're like acknowledging that. And we're also like validating, of course we feel that way. That makes so much sense. This woman who's telling her story went through something so hard. And of course it's going to impact our nervous systems. And then we did a little practice to shift it a little bit, which is doing straw breath. So sometimes we'll go into sympathetic charge, which a lot of times people call fight or flight. And doing something like straw breath can help when the fight or flight isn't huge, right? When it's like you just start to feel that little shift. And I know I felt that, Seantae, hearing your story and imagining as a mother what that would be like to look around. That's the first thing I think we do as moms is to like, how are my kids? And to see that one of them is not okay is really, I don't think words describe it. I don't think it can be put into words. So thank you for sharing your story. I also just loved the magic part of both you and your husband around the same time, getting the same thought of we need to help people. I think that's so beautiful. And I'm curious because I know you as like a speaker and an advocate and, running this foundation, you talk a lot about medical trauma. And so I'm curious about like some of that part of your story and what that was like.
Yeah. First, thank you for allowing us to kind of calm our systems. And I do, if people listen to you a lot, they already have this information. But if they're new to this, I really loved how you pointed out, I feel it in my body. Because I think we forget to tap into that and to recognize it. Or we feel it, but we don't really know what to do with it. So
It
I
feels
really
scary.
yeah, it's like, well, I feel it. Or like even, I have a lot of teenagers and they'll sometimes say, I have a lump in my throat. But they don't know what that means or what to do with that lump, right?
Yeah.
And so just to acknowledge that your body's telling you something because of this, right? And then that there are tools that you can utilize to help release those things or to reset. Though, all of that is available. So I do really appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you.
As far as speaking and medical trauma goes, it's been a really interesting journey where, right off the bat, we were lucky enough to fall into becoming safe driving advocates. And it's all four of us. So my husband and I and our oldest twins, the stars aligned and we were able to get together and start speaking at driver's ed in our local high schools. And it's really impactful because teens are talking to teens, right? Like these underdeveloped brains are talking to other underdeveloped brains that are saying, think before you act, put your seatbelt on, don't do dumb things, right? We're
Yes.
able to share our story and how it impacts. And it's been a really neat journey because a lot of them have watched my son Owen, who I do want to mention is doing really well. I do want to make sure there's some closure there. He's doing really, really well. They've watched him through his healing journey, and they're his peers, and they saw him initially barely able to come to school and in a back brace with a shaved head and a lot of scars and all of those things, and then learning how to articulate again, and then talking to them about how important it is to be safe on the roads. And as we were doing that, I had this childhood dream that I never told anybody about running through my head over and over about being a speaker. I have wanted to be a speaker since the first time I heard my first speaker in like middle school. You'll never forget his like interactive activity and being like, I want to do this. But I never told anybody. We do that. We tend to do that with some of our biggest, scariest dreams.
Yeah.
And we just kept getting asked to speak. And then I individually kept getting asked to speak more and more and more. And then as I did it, I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to talk about this dream out loud. And been really lucky because it's become a reality. And that's what I get to do as a profession now. As it's happened, I have talked with so many different people, and I am always thirsty for knowledge. As I mentioned, our foundation is solution focused, and that's really born in my heart of being solution focused. It's not that I want to fix things, but I really love to look at different ideas and different solutions. And as I get to talk with amazing people like you, I learn more information and I glean new insights that if it's not something I need, somebody else in my family does, right? There are
Yeah.
4 of us that were in the accident, and then 3 more kids that this affected obviously drastically.
Yes.
So there's
Yes.
7 people in my home that all function very, very differently.
Yeah.
And we hold space for that. We've learned how to hold space for that. And I'm always looking for ways that may help one of my kids differently than another, or that's going to help my husband, but it doesn't help me, or vice versa. And through this journey of both speaking and getting to interact with people in these professions, I have learned this very broad pool that exists of medical trauma.
Yes.
And I was actually on a podcast once, and she started naming it medical trauma. And I thought, I have never thought about that. I've
Mhm.
never thought about the fact that that's could be, what my label is or what I could identify with, because that is a lot of what's happened, right? We went through something that was very traumatic that caused a lot of medical treatment, and
Yes.
that we continue to live in that world, right? We are with healthcare all the time. And
Mhm.
it's been really amazing to be able to connect with and learn about the things that help us and the things that help other people just for this. And then I have other medical things in my life as well as my loved ones. And so just to be able to learn how to help and how to empower myself with the tools and tricks, even just like you just did with straw breathing. It's an incredible way to be able to get through life when you go through something hard and it affects you so drastically
Yes.
that you can do something, right? And that empowerment piece is something that I'm all about, whether it's empowering the healthcare world and letting them know you are seen and you are valued and what you do makes a difference. You saved our lives.
Yes.
And they're not always able to, but they try, right? They do
Yeah.
what they can, and to empower them, and then also to empower patients. And a really big one that sometimes gets forgotten is to empower the caregiver. Those
Yes.
caregivers are carrying that feeling all the time. And I've seen
Yes.
that in my own circles, right? Like I was a caregiver, obviously, as well as a patient. But then my circles of my immediate family and my extended family and my closest community and my where I worked, all of those things, this affected everybody. I mean,
Yes.
everybody knows what happened to us because it was a big, big deal. And
Yeah.
so recognizing and empowering the waves that this creates, and I don't want to say that they're negative, I'll say that they're challenging.
Yes.
And then the waves that we can create in helping people to understand what to do with that and how
Yeah.
to take that and utilize it in a way that they can move forward with so they're not so stuck.
Right. Yeah, because that feeling of being stuck is so common after trauma. Yeah, so I love that you're doing that. I feel so strongly about it, just to give people things that can be done, because also part of healing from trauma is starting to feel that sense of agency, that autonomy that we lose, right? When we are in a traumatic experience, there was very little that could be done, right? For y'all to avoid that car. So you don't have the control you wish you had in those situations. And so as we're healing from situations we did not have the control in, starting to feel that sense of, oh, I can acknowledge how I feel. Okay. And then I can make a little shift. I can take a breath, or I can go for a walk, or I can do some somatic shaking, or I can call a friend, I think is really powerful. It sounds simple.
It does.
Yes, but sometimes the most simple things are so incredibly powerful and can shift somebody's experience.
Yeah. Can I share a short story that's
Yes, I would love
about
that. Yes, please.
So, just to really solidify this for those of you that are listening. So, my son had a severe traumatic brain injury, and to explain that a little bit further, it's like a concussion times a million, right? So, he had to relearn how to breathe. He had to relearn how to go to the bathroom. He had to relearn how to talk. He had to relearn how to eat. I mean, everything. He had to relearn how to do everything because those parts in his brain were injured. So, he had to find new ways to do it, essentially to build new roads.
Yeah.
And for about 2 years, he was always being told the things he couldn't do. It wasn't safe to do a lot of things.
Yeah.
And this sweet kid, it was just before his freshman year. He was getting ready to live up his high school life. And he had so many restrictions.
Yeah.
Initially, he couldn't even, like, we could have one friend at our house for 20 minutes once a week. I mean, that's the extent of where he was at. And we went into one of his neurology appointments, and before we walked in, he said, Mom, every time we go to these, we talk about my long list of things that I can't do. And I know the things I can't do. I understand why we need to keep me safe. I want to be able to progress. I don't want to go backwards. I get it. But could we maybe talk about the things that I can do?
Yeah.
This 14-year-old boy with a brain injury says this, and I'm like, absolutely. Let's do it. Let's talk about the things that you can do. So we go into the appointment, starts as normal, and then his doctor, starts to get into things, and he says, hold on. Could we make a list of all the things that I can do? And she looks at him and she starts laughing. And we're like, what? And she goes, not one patient ever has asked me to do this. And it's the best idea I've heard. Let's do it. So in my medical notebook that's filled, it's got torn pages. I mean, we use it all the time. We open it to a new sheet and we have the goal to fill the whole page with a list of things that he can do. And I'm not going to lie, it was kind of rough to find what those things were because he had a lot of restrictions. Yeah. And she said, basket weaving. You could totally weave a basket. And he was like, cool, I'll write that down. And then she's like, crochet. You could crochet. And he's like, not into that, but it's something I can do. Yeah. And we make this really long list of things that he can do. And we leave that appointment and he is beaming. He has a list of things that he totally doesn't want to do, but he was so excited because I can do all of these things. Yeah. And this is the moment that I realized how important it was to find the things that we can do. Yeah. My husband was in a wheelchair for a while. He had to relearn how to walk, and he loves the outdoors. He loves to go backpacking. He loves to go hiking and fishing and all of those things. He couldn't do those things. I mean, it was absolutely impossible for him to do those things. And we found he would play like hunting video games. And even if you're not a hunter, hear me out. It was just so that he could walk outside. Yes. Right? Just to have that feeling of being outside. And we all learned things that we could do that could take us back to a place that we felt like you are mentioning, having this autonomy again. Yeah. I'm able to choose what kinds of things that I'm putting into my mind, because when we're so focused, and it's really hard not to, and there's reasons your brain does this, but we're so focused on, I can't do these things for these reasons, and they're good reasons. When we shift and do like Owen did and say, what can I do? We have this bounce in our step again, right? We're able to kind of find that light and that hope again. And then we start to see more things that we can do, right? Yeah. And you can talk about it if you'd like, but our reticular activating system starts to look for things that we can do. Yes. Our filter in our brain starts to go, I've been looking for all these things that I can't do. And at this point, we just keep finding them. I mean, our brain's going to find proof of that over and over. Yes. But when we start to look for the things that we can do, or the things that are bringing us joy, or that we're grateful for, or a glimmer, there's so many different terms and ways you can utilize this, but when we start to find those things, our brain wants to find more. And then once we find more, it wants to find even more. And then it becomes this snowball effect that's really, really beautiful. And just to close that story out, I just want to share that what Owen ended up doing was auditioning for the talent show in his high school. He could play music. That was something he could do. And he made it, and he was able to play the guitar and sing a song, and that propelled him into a life of just loving performing. And what a really amazing thing for him to do. He was a soccer player before that. He'll never be able safely to play soccer again, but he is a musician through and through. Would he have found that path before? I don't know. I mean, he loved music before, but then he learned it was the thing he could do.
Yeah. Like literally, I've been trying to keep myself from crying for like part of our conversation. When you talked about like where he came from and how far he's had to go, that's like literally the whole reason I started medical trauma support, is because of how beautiful it is when people can do that. And, not everybody has you as a mom, right? Like I know you're such a big part of that, but it's just, we all have the capacity to do that, but we don't always have the support to do that. And it's like my biggest dream is for people to be able to heal from this kind of trauma. And so I'm just so moved, and especially because, he was only 14, and yeah, one of my kids is 14, and I just can't imagine like how hard that was for him, but like for you, for everyone. So I'm crying because I'm so moved by like what you've done and what you're doing and your family, and just the story of healing. It's so beautiful. I feel like I need to gather myself before.
While you take some breaths, let me just say,
Yeah.
I appreciate that so deeply. And it is just a beautiful thing to experience a world where people like us who live on opposite ends of the country
Yeah.
are able to fill each other's hearts and
Yeah.
to just really have this community like you talked about in similar things. Something that I love the analogy of is when we go through these things, whether it's you and wanting to help people, and I know you've experienced your own things, but even just the idea of your businesses and what you're doing and the ways that you're helping, it can feel really isolating and lonely. And I always call it an island. It feels as if we're on an island and there's just water around. And sometimes the water's beautiful and sometimes it's raging, but we feel like we're on this island all alone. And I want everybody listening that can feel our hearts connecting to recognize that our islands are really close. Our islands are really close. And if at any point you feel like your island is just isolating, to allow yourself to take a breath and to look up and to see that there are people with these big, huge, giant hearts like you that feel and care so deeply that it moves you to tears just to hear in the experience. And so if you're currently on an island, any of you, if you feel like you're on an island, my island's so close. Her island is so close. In fact, you could step right onto it.
Yeah.
You literally could step right onto it. And if you feel like it's too far, we will begin to build the bridges. We will do that work of building these bridges between our islands so that you know that you're safe to walk across or to invite me onto your island so that you don't have to sit there alone anymore. Because at the end of the day, these very, very dark places that we've been, very, very dark places that we've been, there is light. And I think that that's something that we can acknowledge, is that there is light. There is, even if it's just a dot. Picture being, I mean, for me, it's outside, right? And in a very, very dark night, that one star or that moon is so bright, it creates so much light. Or if you're in a dark room at all and there's just a sliver of light, how much that spreads. And to allow yourself, and I keep saying allow yourself because it is an acceptance process, and it's not easy. It's like grief. You're going to go through denying that it exists, I promise. And you've been there and you'll be there again. That denial will come back. You'll be angry about it. I've been there and I go there over and over. And then when I'm ready, I see that there's still that light. And I see that our islands are close. And I see that there is a community that understands me. And that community is different than the community that I had before this hard thing. Those people still exist and they still love me and I still love them. But we understand each other in a different way than maybe they understand me. Yeah. And so it's really amazing that we can have this world filled with light, even though there's darkness too. And I think one of the biggest things that I've learned through my own, going to therapy is holding those things together. That it's
Mm-hmm.
not just darkness and then just light, that they can exist at the same time, and that I can hold space for darkness and light together in the same experience, in the same room, in the same conversation, right? We've gone through that even just today. There was a lot
Yes.
of darkness and a lot of light in the same thing and about the same thing. And that
Yes.
tends to be what medical trauma brings. There are those moments that we just shout for joy because of how dark it had been right before. And
Right.
there are those moments that feel really dark because we have felt that light already. And it will continue to cycle in this big, messy twirling of emotions and feelings and ups
Yes.
and downs. But we get to do it together.
Right. Yeah. I love that because, yes, we are human. And being human means that we will have both the light and the dark. But again, like you said, when you are not alone in the dark, when you have someone else there, someone else is there, it makes such a difference. And so, yeah, that's one of the many reasons that I just community is so crucial for us. And I know it is, that's a big part of what y'all do too. So, I love that. The way that you describe things is so beautiful. And so, like the islands, right? You're able to really visualize it and feel that, yeah, you kind of felt like you were this person on your own island and nobody else understood you. You kind of have to look up and be like, oh my gosh, like you're so close, I can just like hop over to your island. But you have to look up. And my dream is that these podcast episodes like this are helping people to be able to look up and see that there's light, because you and I both know what it's like to be in the dark and think you're alone in it. And then to know the feeling of looking up and seeing you're not alone and feeling the support of people who have also been in hard places. And yeah, some of my support when I was in some of my darkest places, it was like I could tell that they got it. Like they really understood. It's almost like this, like, I don't even know, there's just this way that I can just tell, and then I'm like, oh, okay, you get it. You're safe. Like, you know what this is about. So
Yeah, and it's
yeah.
almost like you don't have to explain it. And there's something that feels really calming about not having to explain it. And when we are looking up, I think the other really beneficial part of that is to find people that can teach us things, right? And that's why that was part of what I was trying to explain of what's propelled me to where I am now, is because I wanted to educate myself on everything that I could.
Yes.
And I wanted to know all of the different options that are out there of things that might help. And
Yeah.
so when we're looking up, it doesn't mean that we're not still in a really hard place. It actually could even just be that we're in one of the hardest places and we need to learn. We need to understand what there is available. You listed a whole bunch of things earlier that you could tap into, right? So going on a walk, calling a friend, somatic movements, breathing, right? If you've never heard those terms before, you didn't even know that either that they existed or that you could utilize them, right? To clench your body and then to release, and how powerful
Yes.
that is. And
Yeah.
so part of this looking up and letting the mist and the fog sort of dissolve, it comes from learning how our bodies and our minds work, because we are human, we are in this body, and we can utilize things that are going to help us. And I'm so grateful. I have to just say, I'm so grateful for you and people like you and for the communities that exist that have taught me how to do those things, because I wouldn't have gotten through, right? I mean, I like to believe that I can get through anything. So maybe I would have gotten through, but it was already really, really hard with
Yeah.
learning how to do some things that can help. And because of learning how to do it in a way that I will call healthy, to learn how to do some healthy coping mechanisms and ways to work through, I now can live this life that I actually like. When we do those driver's ed presentations, we always ask students what their questions are at the end. And these audiences, they're usually about 100 kids, and
Mm-hmm.
they're 15-ish, some are older. And one boy recently said, if you could change it, would you? Not, do you wish it didn't happen? Whatever. It was just, if you could change it, would you? And it took my breath away. I mean, what an insightful question for this
Right.
teenager to be thinking about and to ask. And I am now at a place that I don't know if I would change it. I mean, it's the worst thing I've ever been through.
Yeah.
And because I've tapped into community and really educated myself on what I can do and connected heart to heart to people like you, I would have missed out on all of that.
Yeah.
I would have missed out on everything that my life is.
Yeah.
As a family, we used to spend our time playing soccer and going backpacking, which are great. Those are great things. And now we spend some of our time doing those things and a lot of our time, doing presentations and sitting at hospital bedsides.
Mm.
And they're
Yeah.
hard things, but they are beautiful, beautiful things. And so at the end of the day, these trials, these traumas, these dark places that we go through, they propel us forward into a life that we didn't know could exist. And that fog does lift. And we are able to have a community of beautiful people around us that make us even better than we could have imagined.
Yeah. That connection with other humans is, it's magic. It's really magic. And when you talked about, y'all sitting, at bedsides with people who are probably in the depth of their darkness, and for them to see that you've been there, and it's almost like being able to see like, oh, I can get better. Like I can recover from this. And that's so powerful and so beautiful. And I'm so thankful that you're here. I'm so thankful that you're doing this work. I'll let the audience know I've already shared Seantae's information and the Sandal Blue Foundation with somebody that I know that needed it, because car accidents can be really traumatic, even if they're not physically traumatic to the extent that yours was. They're really scary. Again, like, you don't expect them. They can really jolt you. They can really injure you, but the emotional injuries are real too. And so I was so happy that we'd met and that I could share that information with her, because before that, I didn't know. I didn't know where somebody could go who'd been in that situation. So I'm so thankful that y'all are doing that. It's so beautiful. And I wish we could talk for like 5 hours, because
Always.
it's so good to talk to you and to hear your wisdom, your hard-earned wisdom. But I was wondering if there's one thing that you really want the audience to really hear, something really important that you want them to hear.
I really like to just be led to, and there's a person out there right now that's listening saying, I need this. Like, what is it that I need?
Yeah.
What you need is this. Whatever you're feeling right now, or tonight, or tomorrow, it is the right feeling. We talked a lot today about, looking for help and support and community and tips and understanding those things. But please know that those moments that bring you to tears and that you can physically feel them on your shoulders or in your stomach, and it makes you sick and it's heavy and it's dark, that feeling is okay too. That is part of this journey. And I don't want anybody to ever think, look at all these things Seantae's been through. Everything's good. And she's just so focused on the positive and everything else. That exists. And also, there are still moments very frequently that's not the place that I'm in. And that's okay. It is okay. And to hold space and grace for yourself if what you're feeling isn't the positive.
Right.
And then vice versa. Maybe you've had tremendous loss through your trauma or through another's, and what you're feeling is happiness. That's okay too. It's okay. We had two 8-year-olds at the time of our accident and an 11-year-old and two 14-year-olds, right? So we had younger kids, and we have just, this is our motto: whatever you're feeling is the right feeling. And it applies to everything. If you get happy news that you thought you'd be excited about, and then you're kind of bummed for whatever reason, that's okay. That's the right feeling. What we feel doesn't define us, right? It's just something that's moving through us. Right. And we can allow that. So, listeners, whatever you're feeling is the right feeling. And you have love and support in unexpected places through each of those feelings.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So for the audience who may want to reach out to you, I would love it if you could share ways that they could contact you, or, they may want support from the Sandal Blue Foundation, or there may be somebody listening who wants to bring you in to speak. How would they do that?
Yeah, you bet. So if you're looking for support as far as just understanding what it's like to go through this, and tips and tricks and all of that as far as medical trauma and what life looks like after, my Instagram and Facebook is the best place for that. And it is at Seantae Jackson Perspectives, right? We have our perspectives on these things. If you are looking for support after an accident, or you're a supporter, you're a caregiver for somebody after an accident, you can go to our website, which is Sandal Blue Foundation, and know that we have some really exciting things coming at the beginning of the year in addition to our website. But go there. There's information obviously there to get a hold of us. If you're looking to have me speak, or to do a webinar, or to do a workshop, or to come and talk to your company about resilience and how to get along, or how to give and receive help better, I have all sorts of really helpful workshops and keynotes and things like that. I have a speaking page on our Sandal Blue website, and feel free to DM me on Instagram. My personal favorite is just good old email. So feel free to email me. We can put it in the show notes, but it's just my name with a period in between, Seantae.Jackson at Sandal Blue Foundation.
Great. And yeah, I will put all of that in the show notes. So for anybody watching, listening, you can access those easily through the show notes. Seantae, thank you so much. It was so wonderful to talk to you. I knew it would be because we have talked before, but I was so moved. I was surprised by my emotion that came up so strongly. And thank you for sharing your story and sharing your wisdom and your time.
Yes, it's my pleasure. Thank you for what you do. For all of you listening, thank you for taking a minute to just fill your cup and to be reminded that you are seen, that you're not alone. And there are so many people out there like Sarah and I that are just, we're here for you. You got it.
I hope you enjoyed this medical trauma support episode. I wanted to let you know that if you are looking for support as you're healing from medical trauma, you can join our membership community. It is called the Befriend Your Body community, and you can find out more at medicaltraumasupport.com.